Hi, and welcome to 3 Things in 3 Minutes. I'm Nersi. Today we are looking at underwater cities from Delicious Games and Grande Games. It plays 1 to 4 players and plays in about 80 to 160 minutes. What it's about: this is a Euro game that is a combination of worker placement, card actions, and engine and tableau building. You're playing cards to build cities in the ocean, add specialized buildings to them, and then build tunnels and connect them to each other and to the land. Each turn you place a worker on an action slot that is in one of 3 zones, red, yellow, and green, on the board, and then play a card. Now if the card color matches, you also get the bonus effect or the action from the card. At the end of a number of turns, production happens, and you get resources and points from your buildings and cards in your tableau. The era ends, and at the end of 3 eras, which is 10 rounds total, you score your final points. Now, things I like. The most distinctive aspect of this game comes from the strategic choices you have to make with your worker placement, and whether you have a card in your relatively small hand that matches the color. Now, since the timing of a lot of your actions in this game matters, you're frequently left challenged to take an action because you either have a matching card that you really want to use, or dump a card to take a non-matching action because the timing makes more sense, and it leads to a lot of tense decision making. The game also does develop some very interesting engines. Now, though some of them come from the city's buildings, the most interesting engines come from the passive and production bonuses of the cards that you have in your tableau, in the way the games like Terraforming Mars do. The game also has the cards nicely separated into 3 era stacks, so the later game cards are ones that you will more likely acquire and use later in the game. Now, while the tableau can get fairly large, the game does wisely include shorthand icons for the card actions along the top edge, so you can get by with stacking your tableau cards so that only the tops show. Now, the shorthand doesn't always make sense on its own, but once you've played the card and read its text, it'll serve as a good reminder. Points to consider. Though the strategic decision making of the action and card selection can be interesting, it can also be overwhelming to figure out how to maximize and use your cards and actions most effectively, and it can be really hard for players prone to analysis paralysis. Though luckily you can use your discarding step and then decision making while the next player goes. Similarly, once your tableau gets large, the number of passive and production abilities can get overwhelming, especially later in the game, and so you'll find that the game slows down when you check your cards whenever you take certain actions or trying to sort out your production phase to see whether any of the many cards in your tableau will trigger. And finally, the boards and cards in the game are made of rather thin stock, which becomes obvious since much of your gameplay and attention is on your really thin player board rather than the main board, and then you'll be constantly handling these thin cards, which can bend and wear easily. So, in summary, it's a mix of worker placement, tableau, and engine building with a very interesting card and worker placement mechanic. It leads to some interesting engine building, but also leads to a potentially unruly tableau, and between its tough decisions and longer playing time, it's definitely one where analysis paralysis can set in. Thanks so much for watching. Please make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel.